Here we go. The K, if you don't have enough room for a little bit exaggerated ascender here, I would not suggest you do this version of the K, because you will see that even though it's historically correct, it reads very easily like an R. So since we have a different option for a K, I use it. And pierce, come back in and make my serif. Then the K, because remember we're basing these off of Roman letters, highly influenced by Roman letters, it doesn't come all the way up to the full width of the square at the top, only at the bottom. So a little bit of a gentle entrance stroke, kiss above the midpoint, and then kick out and exit. Hi, just a second, I'm doing something. The L is an ascender and it's a narrow letter. So you'll stop and pause, pull out, and then go out to your thin as you go with the serif. Come down, pull out, and I do kind of roll to the corner so I'm sure to get a hairline as I come out of that. When you are doing these serif, these two-stroke serifs, it's a little bit easier if you're using a very opaque writing fluid like gouache or Sumi ink or even Higgins Eternal. But part of the beauty and frustration of Walnut and 4001 is it does show your double strokes. So if I were doing a finished piece in a more transparent, I wouldn't choose to do the serif. Okay, JKL. Now, here we go. What you've all been waiting for, and we skipped at the beginning, is the A. The A's are based on a Roman A, which you'll remember is a 3/4 width letter. Okay, so that triangle is this Roman. And our Uncial wants to look like this triangle. So I'll show you this one that Sheila has in her exemplar that I don't use, but I practiced it just so I could show you. 30-degree pen angle, slightly below the X height. You come down and pierce, and then come back, and then you're going to come back up to the top and 30-degree pen angle, come down and exit. I don't use that one. I can't execute it beautifully, so I don't. It messes up my rhythm. So for the other A's, remember we want that Roman triangle influence, so we're not going to do a diagonal across the whole square. We're going to do a diagonal with a 45-degree pen angle because we're making a diagonal and we want the thickness to be related to the thickness of our downstrokes. We're going to come up and then come up and down and exit. Then with a 30-degree pen angle, so at the midpoint, you're going to come in and out, and this is also maybe why you need to use a cover page, because my paper isn't accepting the ink very well because I've been touching it for all these videos. Okay, so 45-degree angle from the middle of the square to the end, then back to a 30-degree angle, and think about that triangle shape. Then when I hit here, I roll to the corner and pull a thin up. If you can't roll, you can very carefully follow your nib to make a thin with your whole thin up. But if you can roll to the corner, then you'll always get a nice thin stroke there. Another option for an A is 45-degree angle, because you're making a diagonal stroke and you want it to be thick enough. Down and out. Then 45-degree angle, keep it at 45. You're going to come down and over and pierce, and then come up and close the A. This one is too weak. I don't know why. There. Okay. The last option for an A, I would only use it in the beginning of a word. I wouldn't use it inside of a word because it will throw off your spacing. But because it's beautiful, you want to see it. You will 45-degree angle, diagonal down, exit. Then make sure you have enough ink in your nib. You're going to start at the beginning, follow that stroke a little bit, and then come down and out and roll to your corner, and then cross. Now you'll see this swoosh here would be lost in a letter in the middle of a word, but that is an option, and you will see it in Uncial. Okay, M. You could use a Roman M. Remember, thin, thick, thin, thick for the Roman M. And when you do this downstroke, you start with a flat pen angle and then roll, manipulate your pen till it gets to a very steep pen angle here, so you don't get the nib poking out on this side of your other downstroke. It's a lot of work. It's hard to execute. It takes lots of practice. So since we're doing Uncial, you might as well do a round M. So think about Mother O, except for you're not going to go all the way over here to the thin. You're going to think about Mother O, and then think about heading down to pierce the baseline. Come back up into your ink and bulge, and then straight down and pierce the baseline. Now look at this counter space, this white space in between my lines. It's 1, 2 1/4 pen widths wide. You want that same amount of counter space on this side of your M, otherwise it will look out of balance. So you're going to start where you've been starting on all of those other branches. If you start too low, it starts to look a little bare bummy. So don't start too low, but start at that same place. Come over and bulge your top, and when you get that counter space about right, then think about mother O up here and then piercing your baseline. After all that talk, I do like this one better. It starts a little bit lower than this guy. And then because we were using Sheila's exemplar, we forgot this W. It starts out the same as a U with a flat pen angle, come horizontal in, and then make that round stroke to the thin, then hover up, pierce that X height, come down and meet your thin, and then make another rounded bottom. Then you're going to think about piercing this X height, coming and bulging, and then meeting the thin. And you want that same amount of counter space in there. And if you are feeling fancy, you can cross it. Sometimes it helps with an unbalanced W. Sometimes it brings attention to an unbalanced W. So be careful with it, but you have that option. If you are not getting thins when you start, your pen may be too flat against the paper, or your paper and ink relationship is bleeding and you don't want that. If you can hold your nib so that only the very tip of the edge is touching the paper, you'll be able to get a nice thin. Okay, here we go. So the M ends up bulging and bulging 6 widths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 widths. It should be only 6. Here, let's try it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Guys, this is my 3rd time doing this video. And it might be too long now. So let's see if I can do it. There you go. Okay, those are your Uncial letters for the first half of the alphabet in 3 separate videos.